Who is ready for this episode? Salutations, friends. Thank you for being here. I have a lot of information for us today. I have gathered both sets of photographs, put them together, and in this episode, we are going to learn about Jeffrey Epstein, learn a little bit more about the Townhouse, learn about that area in the Upper East Side, and as well as the items that we find within the Townhouse. So thank you for being here. It is going to be a lot of information. So this is going to be a series, and this is part one. As you see, we have two different photographs, which is two sets were taken. The first set was taken on July 6th, 2019. And we're going to say it is two different people because of the handwriting, even though the names are blocked. So July 6th is the day that Jeffrey Epstein was arrested. He was detained in New Jersey. And this set was taken that day around 7 o'clock that night. This set was taken on July 11th. And this looks to be done around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So day and night. As you see, they took these pictures on two different surfaces. The first set, I want to say, was done within the hallway, and this one was done in the entryway. As we see, this is an official form, and the last time this form was updated was July 24th, 2017. So what we're going to do is look into the methodology of these agents taken within the Townhouse. I want to say that we know there's at least two sets, but there could be more. I say that because even though these two sets were taken, there isn't much detail. There is a lot of information that is within that Townhouse that we do not see, and we'll go through that. But what they did do is they took a picture of the room, and it was labeled with a letter on official form, and sometimes it looks like it may have been an afterthought or it wasn't thought through all the way. Then they would take a photo of them entering the room, throughout the room, and then exiting the room. We do see the blueprints, and they are marked up. And that does prohibit us from seeing the flow of the Townhouse of the blueprints. We also do see them take a photograph of a document that is filled out of all the items that were seized. One of them we can really see what was taken, while the other one is too bright. So in this analysis, I'll be showing you the blueprint first and throughout for context and to help visualize. And we'll just keep taking mental notes and keep adding to this series as we go through. I'm going to be honest, I have done this so many times because each time that I go through it, I end up finding more information out, or I think of something to add to it. So it's going to be a lot of information. So we'll also take note in the paths of the FBI agents and their movements within the Townhouse. Were all rooms photographed? It's been said that there's 40 rooms in that Townhouse, but it's also been renovated several times. So was it organized? Did they collaborate? Was set one assessed prior to set two? So those are the questions that we'll keep asking ourselves as we walk through this home. I've only looked at one blueprint, and that was 1122 Queen Road. So I looked up, how do you read a Townhouse blueprint? So it requires a structured, multi-page approach. Begin with the site plan for property boundaries, which we don't see. We don't even know if there's a backyard, which I'm going to say that's part of having a townhouse, is having a backyard. But we do see the floor plans for the layout, which is ground up. And town plans are usually stacked, so verified shared party walls, stairway, plumbing alignments, and pay close attention to door window symbols. Start with the title block and legend, which we do see, but it's The writing is too small for us to really see that information. Review the site plan, shows the property boundary, parking, and building location. So next to Jeffrey Epstein's townhouse, on one side is another townhouse, and on the other is an apartment building. There is some businesses within that building, and there's also like a parking ramp. So he may have parked his car there. So study the flow. Start at the entrance and note the room layout and flow from the ground floor up. So thick lines indicate load-bearing walls and structured walls, which are crucial for townhouses, and thinner lines indicate partition walls. And I wanted to say that because we will be seeing that in regards to the elevator and the limestone that's within the entryway. So this I want to talk briefly is the party walls, which identify walls shared with neighbors, which are critical for soundproofing and safety. I'm bringing that up because, in my opinion, when Jeffrey Epstein renovated that townhouse, I want to say he did it more for increasing surveillance as well as soundproofing. And I say that because the amount of stereo equipment that is within that townhouse on each floor, and some floors have more than the other, but there are some large speakers, some large subwoofers, and tweeters. So you're going to have some extra soundproofing if you are planning on using such loud stereo systems. And mental walkthrough. Imagine walking through the home to check for flow issues, which I want to say it does. And we'll see that as we go through. So here we have the first blueprint from the first set of photographs taken. Agent 1, as we see here, is July 6, 2019. So as we see, there is black Sharpie, and it definitely disrupts the flow, because here I want to say there's an entryway of some sorts, but we're not able to see that. And this is the basement, and it has here is NN, but then it puts that marker right here, so it's disrupting the flow for us to see the blueprint. So in this part 1, we're going to briefly just look at the shipping and receiving room, because we're going to also look into the front door, the street side, as well as room A. And when you are on the street view, you do see a door here which goes to the receiving and shipping room, and you do see a door here which goes to the servants' sitting room. And I want to say the flow is this. They went from J, K, L, M, N, O. And then they didn't put a letter for the shipping and receiving room. So I don't understand why this also is done like this. And it's color coded. So I don't know if that's done because the first agent did the black Sharpie, and then the second agent does the color coding. Because the second agent that comes on the 11th starts at the first floor. And I want to say the flow for this is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Here is the front door. We see it's double doors, and it opens into the entryway. When you're in the entryway, you can see both sides, that you can see the doors, and they both swing into the room. Within room A, there is 1, 2, 3 rooms. This room is a bathroom. You see here is the sink and the toilet. I'm not sure why this is highlighted like this, but you do see there is a lot going on. I want to have to say it may have to do with the amount of monitors that are here in the room, as well as control systems that are on the wall. In regards to smoke detectors, doors being locked or open, because this door looks like an industrial door over here for the basement, and I don't remember about this one. So here you see that extra structured here for the on the wall, and that's because here is the elevator, and there's also an elevator right here in the kitchen area, like a kitchenette. And here you see the extra structure in the entryway, which has limestone on the wall. Here is the legend that they mention on page 1, which we're not able to read as well. And I'm going to say that this is the property lines. So we do see that on the floor plan, but we don't see the set. And this is up through the sidewalk. Something new that I learned recently, when looks like on YouTube they have people that like take their morning walk and they just record themselves walking through the streets of New York City. And we had all that recent snow, or in February. If you own an area like this, as well as businesses, you're in charge of that sidewalk. So if it's snowing, you have to take care of that snow. And this townhouse, its sidewalk is heated. I don't know how much of it's heated though. And here are the rest of the blueprints. And we see how thick they make it. So I wanted to say that that is done on purpose. And it'll be interesting to see if the color coding, if there is something with that. So here's the front door. But first, let's look into this front door. As we see here, we see some etching here. You can't see it as well there. Here you see it. And this is done at 7 o'clock at night. You can see right here, there's a camera. As well as a camera here and a camera here. A little bit here, you can see it. And then here is another camera. So let's look at Google Maps for the front door. So this is new to me, this Google Dates. They have now a timeline where you can see the pictures taken of this townhouse. It goes back as far as 2009. So as we see here, this is the most recent. There is a townhouse right here that's got scaffolding, but we see the front, we see this door here, which goes to the servant sitting room. And this is the shipping and receiving. This is room B. As you see, there's that camera. And then here is room A, and there's the camera. We can see with this lighting the faces here. With this archway, and this detail is throughout his townhouse in the entry and in the front doors and the entry, as well as Little St. James. and we'll see that picture. But these faces give me not a good vibe. It gives like Greek, gives like Roman. And as you see, it's quite large. It's like an institution. So, with that being said, we did touch on the history, which the original owners were the co-owners of Macy's, and they end up donating that house to the Archdiocese of New York for a hospital. As we know, the Archdiocese does not have the best reputation, as well as the Catholic Church. They have a systematic, generational of sexual abuse towards children. Then it became the Birch Waltham School from 1962 until 1989. And several of you have commented about how these private schools are also like institutionalized, systemic, generational sexual abuse. I find that interesting that this house becomes a hospital and then a private school and then into a systemic, generational pedophilia townhouse of Jeffrey Epstein. So after it became a private school, and we'll see some artifacts within this house that are left from, I want to say, from this private school. Some of the trunks that are in there, you can't even buy today. And they were specifically used for when kids would go to a, what's the name of the schools where they just go overseas and they're in like a boarding school. So Leslie Wexner, he is very much within this case of Jeffrey Epstein, and he too owned a clothing store, Abercrombie and Fitch, which this year has come out with a lot of information about the sexual abuse and the sexual harassment that was going on within that company, as well as the lewd pictures that were used and the type of clothing. And that type of clothing also gave off some psychological warfare, in my opinion, with saying how the sizes were really small when to make you feel like you're fat, the amount of skin that was shown. There's definitely grooming within the clothing industry. Not all of them, but some of them, like Leslie Wexner, I believe definitely was grooming our society and how young girls should dress. Very little clothing. And we see here that Jeffrey Epstein moved into the townhouse in 1995, which we're going to find that to be significant as we look through the townhouse with other people involved within this case. So we don't know much about Jeffrey Epstein. All I've heard about him is that he grew up in Brooklyn. And it's unfortunate. I want to say that's done on purpose, that we don't know much about their lives. So let's look into Jeffrey Epstein real quick. So here we learn that he grew up in Seagate neighborhood of Coney Island in Brooklyn. He was born in 1953. He was raised in a working class, gated community by parents Pauline and Seymour Epstein. He attended local public schools, including Public School 188 and Mark Twain Junior High School. Pauline was a school aide, and his dad, Seymour, was a New York City Parks Department groundskeeper. He had one younger brother, Mark, and neighbors and acquaintances described him as quiet, nerdy, and generous during his childhood. And this is both Wikipedia. I've already looked into it, and I do like the sources they use. They have almost 200 sources, from books, television programs, to articles. So it's a variety. Now, I live in New York State, so I don't know everything that goes on within those boroughs. But learning about Seagate neighborhood. So Seagate neighborhood, here it is. There's Coney Island. So this neighborhood right here. So it says here that it's a private, gated residential community located at the far western end of Coney Island. It was founded in 1899. This exclusive, secure neighborhood features its own police force, private beaches, and a mix of historic homes and modern renovated houses, offering a suburban coastal feel within the city. So gated entry requires resident clearance for visitors, with security patrol by the Seagate Police. Why does that community have its own force, and why is it so protected? We're told that he came from like humble beginnings, and he was always fascinated by the rich and the famous. This comes off to me that this was a plan put in place. You have that townhouse that became a system of a hospital, then a system of the private school system, and then it ends up being in the hands of a idiopathic pedophile, which I see not many comments on my last video, which is totally understandable because that topic is taboo. But this is why it's important to start having discussions about it and getting our information that is from sources where they take the time and use the science in a proper way, which we have to thank Karen Reed for showing us. If you haven't watched it, I would highly recommend it. But it shows us how the state, when they use their quote-unquote experts, how it's not science. It's like a junk science. It's anecdotal science. And it was clearly shown who the actual professionals were. But as Mr. Rogers says, if it's mentionable, it's manageable. We have to talk about this. We see the Catholic Church throughout those years, and then we learned about through Penn State football, how it's within our sports too. So here we have that gated entry requires residence clearance for visitors. How it's providing private year-round access. It has a Seagate Cabana Club, tennis courts, playgrounds, and a dog park. Eclectic mix of architectural styles, including Gilded Age mansions and newer post-Sandy renovations. Median home values are often above $1 million. Doesn't sound like humble beginnings to me. So was his family connected to a different family? His mom's a teacher aide and his dad is working for the Parks Department. Granted, when he was growing up through that time, it may have been different, but not that different if you have your own police force. Visitors must enter through the Surf Avenue gate and usually require a resident to call in a code. A private beach pass is required between Memorial Day and Labor Day. Located adjacent to the bustling Coney Island boardwalk, but feels isolated and quiet. This gives me like Moscow, Idaho vibes. This gives me where those universities are that started Sigma Chi and Pi Phi as well as others. These small, close-knit towns that are secret until they are no longer not secret. So let's go back to the front door. Here is Google Maps, and this is new to me, with them having a timeline. And this goes all the way to 2009, May of 2009. As you see, you can see some etching on the front door. We see the door here that goes to the shipping and receiving, and we see the door here that goes to the servant sitting room. And we see the cameras here. And it does have just like an institutional feel to it. Across the street is the Frick Art Reference, which is like an art museum. It has archives, digital archives. Okay, just to give you how affluent it is. Here is the building that's next to it, and there is a parking garage here. Right down here. And here is another townhouse. It has scaffolding because there's some type of construction. I don't know much about this townhouse. It's not labeled like the others, but this is not the Herbert. This is the Herbert and Strauss house, which now has new ownerships, and it also has been renovated again. So here is 2009. As you see, I don't see any etching here. It looks plain, it looks flat. Then again, the lighting is not the greatest. Here we have July of 2011. Same thing with the etching, but the lighting is not the greatest. 2013, lighting's not the greatest, but you can see it's flat. Here the lighting is better. This is May of 2014, and it's flat. You don't see anything. It looks almost as though two pieces of wood are just put there. Here's October, and you can see some etching, some indentation. Here's 2015, and you can see somewhat what's going on there. And here's that townhouse. And it looks like these are marble columns. And here gives some scale of how large this front door is. Here you can see that etching a little bit more clearly. And here's that window, which you see doors like this throughout. You have a door with this round window in it. Here's 2017. And there's etching there, but it looks different. You can see into room B somewhat. And then here's room A. And here is May of 2019. Here you can see in room B, and A has a curtain. And here's 2021. This looks like someone's taking a break. And here's some scaffolding. So I don't know if there's just construction going on in this area, but it's throughout. Not quite sure what that is about. And then here in June of 2022, this door is open. You can see this light on. And it looks like there's some type of construction going on here on the second floor. And this is in June of 2022. And it looks like some type of signage is on this door. And then this is the most recent, 2024, labeled as the Herbert N. Strauss House. So let's go back to the slides. As I mentioned, oh boy, get my bearings straight here. We talked about this etching here and how this arch with this detail is seen not only in the front door, but also in the entryway and also at Little St. James. This is the FBI photo. I don't know which, because there are two sets of Little St. James as well. This was done in August of 2019. So I looked into this because I remember there was a gold dome on it, and here is July 10th. So this is before the FBI goes onto the island. This is the Business Insider. I don't remember if it labeled the date that the picture was taken. But here you see a gold dome, and then you see this statue. And it's blue and white like Israeli colors. So I looked into gold dome. And what I found is there are several gold domes on structures, mostly in Palestine. But here, the Dome of the Rock is located in the old city of Jerusalem on the Temple Mount. Following the 1967, isn't that funny? There was that trend of 6767. Following the 1967 Six-Day War, Israel has maintained sovereignty over the area, which means they took it, are occupying it, while the Islamic Trust manages the site's daily administration. It is central to both Israeli and Palestinian, as well as broader Islamic and Jewish religious and national narratives. I like how they separated Israeli and Jewish with that. Israel has occupied and controlled this area, claiming it as part of its capital. So it stole it. And just, I think I've already mentioned that. Okay, so here's the front door. This is the second set here, 842. As you see, it's daylight, 3 o'clock. And here you can see the etching in the doorway. And I bring this up because this gives me, it almost gives me an illusion of Nazism. So this is the basement. So we saw that, we've mentioned the door on that side of the shipping and receiving. So here, I believe, is that door. It's not labeled, which we notice in the green. There is no lettering. It's just color-coded green. So this looks like a door to me that would be access to right to the front street. It's, I want to say that this is a security system. We see boxes that are empty. We see trash here, empty boxes. and a carpet that looks like it's ready to be thrown out with the trash, which we see a lot of rolled up carpets within this townhouse as well as Little St. James. Here I find this is like blocks of drywall. I would be interested to know why that is. And that's all that's really is about that area. And so here is the intercom system. And I noticed this. And I said to myself, is this, I believe it's pronounced a mutza. And I didn't understand, I didn't know what it was called. So I just did the Jewish door thing. My apologies. But it's a small decorative case containing a handwritten parchment scroll with Torah verses. Affixed to the right side of doorposts, which this is, it symbolizes God's presence, protects the home, and marks a Jewish residence. It's placed on the upper third of the right doorpost as you enter. And it can be made of metal, wood, or plastic. Many Jews touch or kiss the mutza when entering or leaving a home. Traditionally placed on almost every door frame in a Jewish home, excluding the bathrooms. It is not a lucky charm, but rather a sign of faith and connection to Jewish tradition. So that's the only one that I see throughout the townhouse. We'll keep an eye out if we see any more. But I want to say that these people are in secret and they hide behind the status quo. They hide behind a religion. Jeffrey Epstein is a Zio. He is Israeli. And it's been known that they hide behind the Jewish faith for protection or to use to weaponize. That's why I believe that is there. So here is the front door, and this is the first set. It looks like they used a crowbar. I don't know why, because they arrested him and then went to the house. They could have gotten the key. I'm sure there's people that work there full time to maintain the house, and they could have let them in. I don't know if this was done for drama, to let the neighborhood know that they are now they're now investigating. But this is the most damage that we see throughout the house. We do see that they find a safe. We don't see pictures of them, of where they found the safe or how they took it out or how they opened it. But we do see that. And I want to say that's in their dressing room area, if I recall, but we'll see it in the future. And you do see some dust. But everything else is neat. It's not like the Hollywood movies that you see everything getting ransacked around and papers are being thrown and books are coming off the bookshelf. Nothing is moved. They do open a few drawers, and that's about it, which is disappointing. So here is the entry. As you see here, that style. And I want to say this is also Art Deco, which is what I like, which is disappointing that they use that. And you can see here, this is room A, and this is room B. And that's just to show you that this is room A and then room B. And this picture is taken of the door. This is the second set. So you see there is some floodlights. So I want to say that this may be them collaborating and saying, we may need to bring extra lighting in so that we can take better pictures. I don't know if there's anything underneath this carpet. It's just like a regular industrial carpet. These slabs look like it's a possibility something could be underneath there, but it looks like it's almost set in. And I want to say that this are cameras or screens that can see outside. And I want to say, so I just looked up this in the Epstein so we can try to make it larger. And it almost looks like it's outside. Possibly. All right. Oh, not from beginning. Silly goose. And just to show you that this is set 1 and we see how dark it is. It is at night and you almost can see this more clearly. So now we're going up the steps, and the first thing you see when you walk into room A is the Bill Clinton painting in the blue dress. And this is set 2. As you see, an official form, room A. Front door, go up the steps, room A, the door swings open into room A. So here is the second set. He's wearing a blue dress. I want to say it's for Democrat. Red is for Republican. It looks like it's in the White House. But here I notice, to me, this looks like JFK with like a phallic object right coming towards his mouth. I want to say that's JFK because if you know anything about JFK, he was assassinated under the, many believe it's because of the secrecy, which he does say there's secret society, there's a lot of secrecy within our government and of the CIA and the FBI. We learned that this is the time that J. Edgar Hoover is also the director of the FBI during his presidential term. He was the director for many presidential terms, and he was the one that we talked about with the falseness of stranger danger. And he's got quite the sexual history himself. Some of it say it's because of the Bay of Pigs. I'm sure many things can be true at the same time. It's all connected, it's all systemic, and it's generational. But yes, he was assassinated, and it was because of him standing up to the secrecy that was within our country. And I'm sure he was well aware that if he did speak up, something would happen, and he chose that path. Another aspect of a blue dress is also what Monica Lewinsky wore, and that same dress was used as evidence with ejaculation on it. Hers was more of a navy blue. In this letter, for some reason, it says buffalo on it, and there's also buffalo labeled on one of the electrical boxes within this townhouse. I don't know what that means. I'm from the Buffalo area. Buffalo also has not the best reputation when it comes to certain characters, such as Harvey Weinstein. That's where he got his start in the music industry, was in Buffalo, and then he went into Hollywood. which we are not proud about that at all. And this here is more of a clear picture, just with the lighting. So I find this interesting that the first room that you go into with all these monitors is the White House, and Bill Clinton in a dress and shoes pointing at you when you walk in. You can see it, but it's not as clear. Now, some of you have mentioned that when you look through these photos, you can see imaging, like in the wallpaper, within the carpets. I see that as well. Some of you have mentioned that that was done by Jeffrey Epstein, and that can be done, which I agree. I also want to say that more than likely that the FBI also puts in their own imaging within these photographs. Why do I say that? Well, because I see that with the Idaho 4 case as well. And the FBI was heavy within that case too. They're gonna give us the truth, but they're not gonna make it easy for us to hear the truth or see the truth when it comes to them bringing it out to the public. Subliminal messaging is not anything new. It was used heavily in the late 80s, early 90s with advertisers and all sorts of media. And that is also a book that Stanley Kubrick read that he used a lot within his movies, specifically The Shining, because that's what our government does. So here they took a picture coming in. They're now entering the room. This is the first set. We see these monitors, and this curtain to me looks like an afterthought. So was this room originally used for security or surveillance? Or did it just grow over the years? From my understanding, and many of you have noticed when looking through these photos, that it's not a very warm, inviting home. The color scheme is weird. It's disconnected, it's disjointed. I believe that is done purposefully. Jeffrey Epstein really didn't stay at this house. He mostly stayed on Little St. James. Why? Well, because it's an island. It's safety. He basically grew up on an island, what we just learned. And when you learn about where he grew up as well with the island, you're in control of who comes in and basically who also leaves. He lived here for when he got arrested in West Palm, and he had his sentence here in New York at that townhouse where he could work during the day in his office, and he's got several offices throughout his townhouse, and then he would go to the jail and spend the night. This is set 2. So just to show the differences here, set 1, there is nothing here. Set 2, we see power drills and a backpack. This, I want to say, is the ceiling. There's it's like a doorway down, and it's down here too, so that's the same, but there's no power tools in the first set. The second set there is. This is the first set. Again, no power tools, some paper, a couple mouse, a keyboard, calculator. This Voss drinking water. The amount of equipment used to clean the water in the townhouse as well as Little St. James is elevated with the filtering and UV lighting. On Little St. James, he has cases and cases and cases of this brand of water, which we'll get into once we get in at Little St. James. And there may be some significance in him with that company. Here we see all these control panels dealing with more than likely the sidewalk, security, fire alarms, as well as another control panel of some sorts. And there's 7 monitors altogether. And here's a different angle. This is the second set, and here it's labeled room A that you can see. And now we have a laptop. We have some items. We've got a drum set here that you put on your knee with some drumsticks. So I'm going to say that's probably them, the agents. It wasn't just the photographers were in there. There were other FBI agents within that home. And you see them walking around as their pictures are being taken. Some of them are wearing like official gear, and some of them are just wearing regular street clothes. So was it secured? Here is set 1. As you see, no laptop. Not many items like the previous one. So here is the first set, and you see here this room. It's 734. Here is the second set. And as you see, all these extra items, the power tools, we have some drill bits, some keys. And here is 3:16 in the afternoon. So just to show you with the blueprint, we've gone through the front door, swings open into the entryway. We go up the steps, and you go into room A, swings into room A. This is where we see the painting of Bill Clinton. And here is that room with the clock that we can see. Then here is the bathroom and another, I would say, utility type room. But remember all this extra here that it's highlighted? Not quite sure. So it has, I want to say this is a 2-way mirror. And you can see this door here. This is a closet that's inside that room, bathroom, and then the third room. Not quite sure what this is. So here we see this room. I mentioned the doorway or the entryway of some sorts. I don't know how to describe it. I'm not quite sure what that is, but we see tool bags, cases that hold in your power tools. This looks like a Victoria's Secret bag, Dwayne Reed bag, which is like a convenience store, like a 7-Eleven. They have 7-Elevens in New York City, but this is Dwayne Reed, which is more of their like local franchise. Some power drills. This I mentioned in the previous slides. It's for your car, so it's like see-through. And here is that. Here's another case for some type of power tool. And the door swings open inside this room. Here's like a spindle for, I want to say, wires. This looks like plumbing fixture of some sorts. And here's behind the door. There is a crowbar and we have this. And it says Larry's, apartment 301. And I looked that up. The item shown is a Terk, T-E-R-K, indoor flat multi-directional HD TV antenna designed to receive local television signals. Reception type, multi-directional, meaning it can receive signals from various directions without frequent adjustments. Capable of receiving both HD TV and 4K network. It provides a reception range of up to 65 miles, includes a mountain bracket for laying flat, standing, or hanging. So I went ahead and looked up Jeffrey Epstein 301. And what I found out was this. Exposed inside the New York City condo building where Jeffrey Epstein secretly kept his underage victims. And this was published February 13th, 2026. So newly unsealed records reveal that Jeffrey Epstein kept some of his underage victims in an apartment building just 10 blocks from the Upper East Side Townhouse, 301 East 66th Street, a 16-story post-war condo between 1st and 2nd Avenues with a 24-hour doorman. Hid another sword operation. So here we go again. Doorman, security, just like what he grew up. The secrecy, monitoring who comes in and who leaves. The files, as first reported by Curbed, which is where I saw it first, and then came here as well, show the building functioning as a logistical hub for Epstein's world and, according to civil complaints and sworn testimony, the underage girls he trafficked. More than a dozen apartments also cycled between wealthy guests, notable foreign dignitaries, and Epstein staffers. The sheer volume of high-profile names, including former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak and longevity guru and CBS contributor Peter Attia, reinforces how number 301 functioned as a kind of a shadow annex, separate from the notorious Townhouse. So it does has apartments for models, which there is a modeling photography studio there. But as we go down, we'll get into this more later on a different video, but we're just going to show this. That's his brother Mark Epstein and his wife. So it has here the email records show an unusual, broad, and eclectic list of other occupants and short-term guests. So I looked through here to see if there's a Larry, and there is. Larry Vysotsky, Epstein's longtime pilot, regularly requested units for himself and other pilots. And as you saw there, Larry's apartment 301. And we're going to see throughout the townhouse sticky notes with initials on there. So we'll go back and forth to see possibly who may be associated with those initials. And it's possible that Larry Vysotsky, who was his pilot, with his name in the Epstein files associated with 301 apartments, that this was going to be given to him. I never got to Larry, though. So remember I mentioned about 1995. So here, it doesn't show it on here anymore, but there was, when I first looked at 301 East, it would give you the businesses that are associated with 301 East. But Joyce Anderson Photography, which is located at 301 East 66th Street, apartment AC. Portraits, modeling, portfolios, headshots. So if you go to here, it tells you here was established in 1995. So in 1995 is when Jeffrey Epstein moves into that Upper East Side townhouse. And he also is heavily associated with this 301, which a photography studio is established that same year. And they do headshots for all ages. What is also associated with this 301 is OSA Properties, a real estate consultant in New York, which is here at 301. And that is owned by his brother, Mark Epstein. Mark Epstein, property developer, an executive of OSA Properties. So we also have a parking garage there, and it also has the dates, which not much has changed at this building. But for a building like this, I understand the area, it's the Upper East Side, but to have a doorman, I want to say more than likely is the status quo of that. But that's part of the amenities when you have these types of apartment buildings or these types of buildings in this affluent area. It's about safety, it's about security, and it's about knowing who's coming and leaving. So just looking at that Larry's 301 got to us all that information, including here is what's just happened recently. This Martin Nowak, a Harvard professor and later beneficiary of Epstein's estate, requested stays multiple times. He ends up being a Harvard professor, and he just recently was put on leave again because of his association with Jeffrey Epstein. And a lot of people are demanding accountability. And I want to say another member of a university, which is Ohio State University, their president also had to resign because of his involvement with, or more so, let me take that back. It's that Leslie Wexner donates a lot of money to that university, and people are saying his name needs to be taken down, and we need to stop getting money from him. And then in turn, the president had to resign from Ohio State University. So there is some movement. There is some accountability. It's not going to happen as quickly as we would like, and it's not going to happen in the way that we would like it, but we have to continue open. Look into our own information as well to see within your own community how people are associated with these idiopathic pedophiles. All right. So now we're leaving that room. And here's that curtain. Definitely, it's an afterthought. It looks like it needed to come up, possibly due to, because you can see from the street view, you can look in, you can see room B. So therefore, you may be able to also see what's going on in room A, and you have all those monitors, which I'm sure is 24-hour surveillance. Here's the bathroom, here's the sink pedestal, the toilet, and then the shower. And this is the second set. And this is the first set. And you can see the shower door. So I just showed this picture to show going into this room. You see the desk, you see the waste paper basket, you see this trunk, and it's like between $1,000 to $2,000 for a trunk like that. Now we're into the room. As you see, those control panels are right there. Here's the waste paper basket. And here on the wall, it says Paris, PB, Zorro, Little St. James, and Great St. James. I'm not quite sure what PB is, and dare I check right now and see. Okay, duh. It's the most obvious. Palm Beach, PB. So Jeffrey Epstein maintained a major residence at 358 El Brillo Way in Palm Beach, Florida, which served as a central location for his abuse of underage girls, starting with a 2005 police investigation into reports of him paying minors for massages. This Palm Beach home was central to the controversial 2008 plea deal that saw him serve only 13 months with work release for soliciting prostitutes. Which, I don't like the way that is worded, but that has definitely changed over the years. And this is what they do. They try to soften the actual violation. These girls are not prostitutes. Prostitutes makes it sound like it's a woman's choice, when the majority of the time it is not. So Paris, Palm Beach, Zorro, Little St. James, Great St. James. Here's that desk. And this phone is used throughout the whole entire townhouse. Every single room has that type of phone. Some of them have more than one. When I would watch my Real Housewives of New York with Sonia Morgan, this type of phone was used in her house as well, which was a townhouse. And that is used, and it's connected to like the front door. When the doorbell rings, you could speak to them through that phone. So I want to say it's also used for that, but I want to say he used that phone specifically because he was always on it. And here are, looks like, I want to say they're portable phones. Yes, portable phones. And that looks like all sorts of Sharpies. Here is the other side of this information here. Just a bunch of knickknacks, it looks like. Here's another rolled up carpet. Here is the closet, and inside this closet it looks like it's for shipping. You have your peanuts, you have shipping paper. These cylinders, I want to say, are used to probably send photographs and boxes to mail out whatever. And here's that room again. And just to give you an idea of how much he was on the phone. So we just talked about at Palm Beach and 2005. So here is the phone records that they obtained during that investigation. As you see here, December 14th, 2005. And it says here, though, Jeffrey Epstein, and he uses the address of 457 Madison Ave, which is right here. So this is a hotel, a 5-star hotel. So it looks like he used this as an address, which we learned that he moved into that townhome in 1995. So maybe we'll learn more about this as we go. But with the phone use, and for whatever reason he put his date of birth is 5/5/1950, which is not his actual date of birth. And payment type is postpaid. I'm not sure what that is. So here at 7:51, he makes calls to, he makes a call out to New York, New York. Then at 9, so this is in the morning, 7:51 a.m. So 7, then 9:18, 9:19, 9:56, 10:37, 10:39, 10:40. He gets an incoming call at 11:37 for 2 minutes. And these are all short calls, 1 minute and 2 minutes. And then he makes a call out at 12:54. He gets an incoming at 1:15 and at 1:53. And then he makes an outgoing call at 1:55, 1:57, 1:58. Incoming at 2:26. Outgoing 2:27. 4:04, 4:05, 4:17. Is that the same number? Or is it 2 at 4:17? No, that's the same one. So 4:17, 4:20, 1:07, 10:42. We'll stop at the 1:07 because that's the next day. But just in that one day, that amount of phone calls. And that's not just a one-time thing. He is always on the phone. Always. And this is just one document of him always being on the phone. And here we are leaving out the room. So just to look at this information here. This is the second set. I'm not quite sure what all of this is there, but here is the monitors. So with that curtain, which is right here, you'll be able to see from the street all this going on. You don't want people to see that. So this is the second set. This information is new. This I try to use AI and nothing showed up. I thought something might show up because of just the font. But I did do this and it took me a moment and I was able to find what this is. And it's a MOA complex, Seaside Boulevard, Pasay City, and it's in the Philippines. Now we did talk about a little bit about the Philippines with Tim Tebow, with doing his missionary work in the Philippines. But this, I want to say, was found within Jeffrey Epstein's residence. And this is in an apartment complex in the Philippines. And here is their website. As you see, Shore Residence, Mall of Asia Complex. So here's another area where he is by the water. So it says, take pleasure in the warmth of summer that is always in season at Shore Residencies. Every day is a vacation. There's nothing quite like a vacation at your very own home. Not only does your home have a personal resort, but your entire amenity extends outside to the Mall of Asia and surrounding parks and commercial areas. Living like you're in the shore. So that we have here. Amenity phase 2. So I'm not sure if this is something that is where you can actually go to or if it's a plan and work, because it looks like this is all enclosed. This is inside. And this website is very strange. Hi, my name is Kristen Algier. Just call me Tin. Right after I graduated my bachelor's degree in Northern Samar, I went here in Manalia to find for work. I thought looking for a work was just my problem, without realizing that looking for a convenient home was also my big problem. This blog tends to share with you how to find homes or find home nearest to your work, to your kids' school, yet relaxing and entertaining. So some of that could just be language. Tweety Bird for a context. The nearest school just says I'm ready for school. And shore residencies. So take pleasure in the warmth of summer that is always in season at shore residencies. Every day is a vacation. There's nothing quite like a vacation at your very own home. Not only does your home have a personal resort, but your entire amenity extends outside to the Mall of Asia, surrounding parks. And there we go. So I don't know if this is something that is established or that he was looking into to build for pedophilia. So we're seeing how complex this all was, how it takes many hands to keep this going, and how there are many people involved. We have real estate, we have photography studios, we have complexes, apartment complexes, we have industries, hospital, archdiocese, private schools. Now that I'm thinking of it, I didn't go over this before, but he ended up becoming a teacher at Dalton schools, and he's not even a teacher. It sounds like he went to school for physics and did not graduate. So here is Helen Parkhurst. Was an influential American progressive educator, author, and lecturer who developed the Dalton Laboratory Plan and founded the Dalton School in New York City. Her educational philosophy, influenced by Maria Montessori, centered on child-centered learning, focusing on freedom, collaboration, and independence, allowing students to work at their own pace, which Montessori, many people do enjoy that for their children. Many people even have their homes based out of Montessori. But here is, I want to say, a person who uses that concept but then changes it for their own personal agenda. Just like with Jeffrey Epstein and the Israelis, hiding behind Judaism, but being an ideology instead. So the Dalton Plan was developed in the 1910s and replaced traditional classrooms structures with laboratories where students contracted for their work, fostering self-motivation and responsibility or being exploited. The Dalton School, founded in New York City in 1919, it remains a prominent institution. International influence, Parkhurst methods were widely adopted in Europe and Asia, particularly in the Netherlands, Japan, and England. We'll keep those in mind as we go. She emphasized that schools should be social laboratories for experimentation rather than rigid environments, which is an oxymoron because what is a rigid environment? A laboratory. And we should not be associating learning as a laboratory for experimentation. Career and background: studied with Maria Montessori in Rome and was an associate. Taught and lectured internationally to promote her educational methods. Hosted Child's World on the ABC radio network, featuring discussions with children as noted on this Facebook page. And she earned her master's degree from Yale in 1943. So there you go. And he became an English teacher at this school. It sounds to me that Jeffrey Epstein was groomed to be who he is today. Starting where he lived. And where did he go to get his education? All right, so quickly here it says he attended Cooper Union for advanced math classes from 1969 to 1971, and then attended the Courant Institute of Mathematical Sciences at New York University from September 1971 to June 1974. He studied physiology, mathematical physiology, but left both institutions without receiving a degree. So Cooper Union and New York University. And didn't graduate either one of them. Mathematical sciences, mathematical physiology. So I just looked up here the Cooper Union for Advancement of Science and Art. It's located in New York City's East Village. It's a prestigious, highly selective private college specializing in art, architecture, and engineering. 9-to-1 student-faculty ratio, rigorous education with a half tuition scholarship for all undergrads. You need a high SAT, ACT score. And so here for the New York University, the Courant Institute, it says that it is School of Mathematics, Computing, and Data Science. So he, from what I saw in some of the Townhouse, and just looking through, he was big on AI, and we're seeing that right now. Previously known as the Courant Institute of Mathematical Sciences, is a constitute school of New York University. So, went to 2 different schools for mathematics and did not graduate for both, or did not graduate either one of them, and becomes an English teacher at the Dalton School. And there is now a new Netflix special that's out about him and how he was a teacher there, and how he dressed and how he acted was not professional. But I'm saying that I believe he was groomed for this. So now we are leaving. Not. Here we have, this is for the water cooler, the cooler tower, and the dates of monthly maintenance. Testing for Legionella, monthly maintenance. So here I'm just showing the location here, which is where the Bill Clinton painting is. We have a cupboard here with information. Looks like this is a paper shredder. Filing cabinet, mail, books, which I want to say that these are probably just required for the technical aspect when you have the fire alarms, the water cooler, the sidewalk, all that information. I'm going to say that's probably for your policies and procedures that you have to have when you have that type of equipment. And there we go. So now this is room B. So that was room A. We're at 1 hour and 26 minutes. A lot of information about Jeffrey Epstein, how he grew up, how he was in a secure area, and he goes ahead and continues that by being in a townhouse, having that building 301 with a doorman, how that house became an institution at different levels in different aspects, such as not only just a hospital, but having the Catholic system involved with that, becoming a private school, which he later on becomes a teacher at a private school. Leslie Wexner, who is very much involved, who gives that house to him. In 1995, he starts living there. At the same time, that photography place started and established at 301. His brother is OSA Property, which is real estate, and that apartment building is used for housing models as well as people who want to do very unfortunate acts, I'm assuming, more than likely to those models. And it just brings me back to how now, like, Tyra Banks has become part of the conversation again, and how awful that America's Next Top Model was. And I was all about that show. And there was some disconnect with it. There was some weird things that she would say that did not make sense. But she did talk about how they would live in these model apartments, where in one apartment there would be 5 to 6 models in one apartment, which I thought was very strange. Here they are in this very, what we're told, extravagant life, and it's almost like slave labor. Well, it is slave labor, because not all models are getting paid like a Tyra Banks or a Christy Turlington or a Claudia Schiffer or Iman. And Iman is another one who's heavily in these Jeffrey Epstein files. So all these industries are connected where they're able to bring in vulnerable girls and be in basically like a slave trade. But it is masked with this faux glitz and glam. So let me know what you think. Give me your thoughts about how this part 1 went. And I will be doing the whole Townhouse as well as Little St. James in this way. And I don't know if this much information will be in all the other ones like I mentioned before. So thank you all for being here, and go ahead and subscribe, put on the bell, put on all, so you can stay tuned for the Upper East Side townhouse that was once owned by Jeffrey Epstein.